Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are having a great second morning at Salesforce. How many had the opportunity to see Michelle Obama? Yeah, she's pretty incredible. Look, doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what your politics are, leadership is leadership, and she was pretty special. You should give it up for her one more time. She was pretty good. So we have a lot more in store for you today. We have a great segment for you right now. It's part of the Fortune CEO series, if you've had the opportunity to participate in that, so hopefully you'll enjoy this. We're going to have some great business executives, some great people joining us on stage. We're going to be talking about customers, we're going to be talking about businesses, we're going to be talking about governments, and we're going to be talking about, get ready for this, how to connect in entirely new ways. So this leadership panel is hosted by Fortune's president, Alan Murray, who is terrific. He's the Chief Content Officer for Time. He's had an incredible career, actually. He's had many roles at the Pew Research Center and the Wall Street Journal and CNBC. He's a terrific guy. The panel also includes Mark Frisora, who is the president and CEO of Caesars Entertainment. I'm sure some of you have spent some time in a Caesars property. No disclosures. Sylvia Acevedo is also here. She is the CEO of Girl Scouts USA. Stephen Bird, great CEO of Citi Global Consumer Banking, is with us, and Susan Wojcicki, who is a fellow board member at Salesforce and the CEO of YouTube. She's with us as well. And Jason Chinnick, the CEO of Ducati. We all have motorcycles in the back for you. Jason has promised that, so he's with us. Oh, there was some applause. That's good. You can applaud for the motorcycle. It's okay. All right, there you go. It's a table of Ducati people. And Alan and our esteemed panelists are ready to go. So welcome them to the stage. Alan, everybody, come on up.
Okay.
Hey, great to see you again. Thank you.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
I hope we get to take these pillows home with us.
Exactly.
It's your own personal cloud. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank all of you for giving us the time. We want to dive right in. There's been a lot of talk here over the last 2 days about the fourth industrial revolution and about how this set of technologies, sensors everywhere, massive amounts of data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, are going to fundamentally change every business in ways imagined and unimagined. And what I'd like to do is start off with each of you and just get you to talk about how technology is going to transform your business most over the course of the next 5 years. And since we clearly have a bunch of Ducati fans out there, Jason, I will start with you.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here and to be able to speak on behalf of Ducati. This is a really exciting time for us because, as many people have known, we've been in the business of selling motorcycles. But actually, that's just one small piece of our business. What we really do is we're in the entertainment business. And as part of that, it's a matter of helping to understand what our customers want, what they need from their experiences. And probably the single biggest thing that we're working on right now, and directly with Salesforce as a result of this, is the connected motorcycle. And this is really giving us an opportunity to learn how people are utilizing their motorcycle, and then also to best cater to them and give them the experiences.
What does that mean? I get what a connected car is, but
okay.
How is my motorcycle going to be connected?
Well, right now we actually have in development, it's a very simple way for us to connect via Bluetooth and an app, but in the future we're going to see SIM cards. They're going to be put in the motorcycles and other technology that's developing to be able to take that experience away from just the customer having it in their pocket. And what that means is when we get to learn how people are utilizing their motorcycle, we can then provide them suggestions of how the motorcycle could be better used, or maybe experiences. For example, if we have a customer that's utilizing their bike to ride in the canyons every day, and they have maybe the type of motorcycle that would be better suited for the track, we can invite them to track experiences. And it's basically giving us an opportunity to get to really know the customer and to understand what they want and what they need, but by how they're utilizing the product.
Yep. Susan, YouTube is a technology platform, but how is that going to change over the next 5 years?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we're seeing that technology has really changed from the video viewing experience is the opportunity for people to have careers in media that otherwise probably wouldn't have been, or would have been harder for them to have a career. So you may have examples of people who started out as doing stand-up comedy or singing, and they're sort of doing it as a hobby, or they're a baker and they love baking, but they have these other activities, but then they wind up creating a YouTube video. That YouTube video goes viral and gets a lot of success, and they realize, wow, I could actually have a career. And so we think about these as next generation media companies, because there's an individual and they could be filming in their bedroom, talking about what's happening to them every day, but behind them, it's a company, it's a brand, they have global distribution, they're generating a good set of income. Sometimes they have like a merchandising line that goes behind them. And so I think just having technology has enabled a new set of people to be able to create content. And that's enabled a lot of content around topics that just were not that wouldn't have necessarily been as successful on a TV platform.
So are you doing things to enable that, to service them, to make it easier for them to actually make a living doing this?
Yeah, so our platform is designed, and we're thinking with YouTube of like, how do we enable all of these creators all over the world? How do we enable them to connect with fans in ways that they couldn't have in the past? Whether that is uploading their content, going live, having merchandise, selling that on the site. Like that's a very different type of media model than what happened in the past. Mobile, huge opportunity. So we're seeing about 60 minutes a day of users using mobile. But I guess the meta point is that because you now have a media platform that is technology driven, you can have new types of content that just wouldn't have done well traditionally on TV. Like how to fix everything in your house, right? Or I'll sometimes tell my kids, oh, you can't, you're having a hard time figuring out this math problem. You can actually find a video on YouTube to do that. That's something you wouldn't have seen on TV, but it is something that we see people having, a fix-it, a beauty, and it's not just general beauty. It will be beauty for specific demographics. And because it's a global platform, we can actually do something that's much more narrow, and it's the sum of all those narrow things that really make the platform compelling.
And Susan, I just want to make sure while you're helping build all these new media companies that you don't forget the old media companies.
Yes, of course. And we think that we are seeing a lot of, I'll say, traditional media companies doing well on the platform, but and sometimes that's uploading clips to be able to drive back for their shows or TV content, but also sometimes it's traditional media companies leaning in and developing content that's unique and special for the platform. And so it can be both. Like all the late night shows, for example, have been using the platform in a really compelling way.
Stephen, you oversee consumer banking for 19 countries for Citi. Consumer banking is changing very rapidly, seems to be more change in store. What do you see as the biggest technologically driven change in the next 5 years?
So first of all, we have 110 million customers, and those customers, the behavior has gone straight to smart device. So when you think about smart device, fast networks, brilliant app, cloud computing, the challenge for us, and this is what we are massively focused on, is moving the entire spectrum of the needs that we all have, borrow, spend, save, invest, and protect, seamlessly into the domain that you're most comfortable with, which is a smart device. And you shouldn't have to leave, for example, in China, you shouldn't have to leave WeChat in order to make a credit card payment. So when we use the power of APIs to connect into the ecosystems where you're most comfortable, where you're spending most of your time, then we make our services more relevant. The truth is, banking has got a lot of difficult processes in it because we must be trusted and secure, and we must defend you and me from the constant barrage of bad actors who are out there. With digital, good things happen very, very quickly, and bad things happen very, very quickly as well.
Yeah.
So the challenge is to be able to migrate all of that capability into your pocket without compromise.
You mentioned China. I know you spent a lot of your career in Asia. This is the one area where people tell me that the Chinese are really ahead of the rest of the world in terms of what's happening on the WeChat platform or Alipay or some of the other consumer technologies.
Yeah, China has really leapfrogged the rest of the world. When you look at, all of us are, if you look at the stats, we're all using our phones we're touching our phones 2,600 times a day. So this move to mobile as the most intimate device has happened everywhere. But in China, it's a combination of, it's the Jack Ma effect. It's Alibaba, Ant Financial, WeChat, JD.com. There has been a leap to existing entirely within the smart device. And it's different from in the West, where we typically compartmentalize by apps. Typically, that is not the way that it exists in China. So there are signposts in terms of behavior, the way customers are most comfortable existing within social, commercial, financial in one domain, and where you simply interface into that domain and they can draw on passively the need that they have. And we think that is a great signpost for where behavior will go, and it has implications for iOS, Android, and the way that services will be integrated into the phone.
Sylvia, Girl Scouts. How is technology going to change what it means to be a Girl Scout in the next 5 years?
Alan, that's a great question. Technology is going to continue to impact everything around us, all the devices that we interact with. And we at Girl Scouts want our girls to not just be users of technology, but we actually want them to be technology literate. We want them to be the creators, the designers, the inventors of new technology. Now, that means for our organization, we've got to be much more nimble. We're really grateful for our partnership with Salesforce that allows us a common operating model. But we have Girl Scouts in every residential zip code. We have Girl Scouts that are in urban, suburban, rural environments. We need to make sure that we've got the digital tools that they're used to working with so that we can provide the services that they're expecting.
So you see big changes ahead for the way the Girl Scouts operates?
We really do see that we will never get away from our in-person outdoor experiences, but yes, we do have to include much more technology in everything that we do. And really, it's pretty exciting because that's really where the girls are. That's where the moms are. Everyone connects, creates, collaborates using their mobile devices, and we need to be there. And, we realize that we have to be part of the solution. All across America, CEOs say to me, we need more women in STEM. And yesterday, I was really pleased to announce our Girl Scout STEM Pledge, where we will add 2.5 million more girls into the STEM pipeline. That's absolutely necessary for our country, companies, to be competitive. And we at Girl Scouts, we're girl experts, so we know how to make that a really great experience for them. So we're really excited about what's ahead of us in technology.
Just have to ask you one more question before we move on to Mark. But why, in today's world, why do we need Girl Scouts? Why not merge the Girl Scouts with the Boy Scouts and just have Scouts?
So we're two different companies completely.
Yeah, but that's an organizational answer. I'm asking the big picture question.
No, that's a great, I really loved, how many of you heard Michelle Obama today? Did you hear her talk about, we need to have some girl-only environment, girl spaces, girls learn differently. I was like, hallelujah, we know that. We know that at Girl Scouts. We are the girl experts. We know that we have much better outcomes in our girl-only experience. So we actually see ourselves even more relevant now than ever before.
And is it the right thing for the Boy Scouts to say, yes, girls can join, but the Girl Scouts say we're going to be girls only?
You know, we are focused on being the girls expert, and I know all the business leaders, you know what, you focus on what you're good at, right? We're really good at creating girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. We have amazing outcomes. Almost every female astronaut in space, a Girl Scout. Many of the tech leaders, how many women here were Girl Scouts? There's a lot of hands going up. Yeah, and the other one is more than half of female elected officials in America, Girl Scouts. You know, 2/3 of the US senators, Girl Scouts. We have a proven model. We have the scale. We're in every residential zip code, and we are the girl experts.
Great. Mark, how is technology going to change the gambling business over the next 5 years?
Okay, so first of all, we've got about 55 million total rewards members, and we do obviously a lot more than gambling. We do hospitality, we do entertainment, we do nightclubs, bars, restaurants, any kind of extension of a hospitality environment, we do it. And I think for us, we're digitizing all of these verticals. We're going through a major set of platform changes, 5 major platforms. And we're creating in the casino environment what we call Casino of the Future. And it's essentially a digital playground. What we're trying to do is change so that every single person that enters this bricks and mortar environment becomes connected with each other. So the moment you walk in, your PDA lights up and you're winning along with everyone else that's winning in the environment. You actually have iBeacons so you can see where there's hot tables. You'll be able to see where there's leaderboards, and the boards will be on a
real-time data on what's going on in
Absolutely.
the casino as you're standing there.
Yeah, we actually activate the environment. So everything is activated. And you never want to leave because you're connected with everyone else and you feel like you're winning when other people are winning. So that casino of the future, if you will, is a major transformation for us because we have to get real-time data right now, right into that PDA or whatever it is the device is that they have, and allow them to participate in all levels of play and see the excitement. On the other side, on the hospitality side, we have iBot, which has already been rolled out in 3 of our facilities on the Strip. Amazing transformation going on as what happens is Travelocity already improved several of these places like the Nobu Hotel, 30 spots, just by having this computerized texting that allows you to have a personalized, customized experience.
So 5 very different industries, 5 very different visions of how technology is going to change your industry. I want to ask you all another question, which is, what's the single biggest challenge you face in making that technology-enabled vision a reality? Mark.
So for us, it's change management, and it's also making sure the technology works. So those 2 things are the biggest roadblocks. Obviously, when we put the new technology in, making sure it's seamless, frictionless, flawless, it's really important to do that and test it before implementing it. And the second thing is change management of the employees, so they understand the technology, they get trained properly, and they know how to use it. So for us, those are just typical tactical roadblocks of having this become a frictionless environment for the customer.
You and I were in a conversation yesterday about this issue of change management, and I frequently find in talking to groups of executives about technology and where technology is headed that the conversation pretty quickly switches to that topics. Question of culture, question of people. How do you get your people to recognize that the casino that they're working in 5 years from now is going to be completely different than the one they're working in today? What's your answer to that?
Well, obviously, again, the training comes out, but if we're looking at culture and making sure that if technology disrupts a job, let's assume that some of the technology platforms gain efficiency and you find that your workforce has got to get smaller in order to adopt the technology. What we've been able to do is use attrition in our industry instead of restructuring. Instead of announcing restructurings in force, which we haven't done in the companies that's been there, we just try to use attrition as ways for people when they elect to leave on their own, and then we're able to mastermind the programs so that there's actually not an RIF, which ruins culture, and it's something that I try to avoid at all costs.
I mean, you went through a pretty difficult bankruptcy process. No layoffs during that process? We had
people leaving, but no layoffs, no massive, large-scale reduction in forces at all, and our employee count's down about 10%, and we were able to do that through attrition. Of course, we're fortunate in a way in that we have about a 17% attrition rate in the service industry. And the other thing that we do, as let's just say as a CEO, we make sure that we set an equal agenda on initiatives between revenue management and efficiency gains.
Yeah.
So we try not to emphasize one over the other.
Sylvia, same question. Single biggest obstacle to making that change?
You know, we've got girls who are early adopters, girls who live on their mobile devices. We're a 100-year-old institution. And so making sure that the organization moves at the speed of girl. And by the way, we're also a federated model. So we have 112 separate 501(c)(3)s that we need to work together. So getting the hearts and minds around why it's important to get on technology, the reason that the girls are there. I'm really grateful for our partnership with Salesforce. 98% of our membership now is on the common operating model, which is fantastic. And now our councils, now that we've done that, are beginning to see the benefits. You know, just recently in September, several parts of the United States were hit with hurricanes, were hit with natural disasters. And, you know, previously, when all the different councils had disparate systems, you know, if something would have happened, it would have been difficult for other Girl Scouts to come in and help out, other than doing maybe manual labor. However, now, because we're on the same common operating model, what happened in San Jacinto, huge impact by the hurricane. But sister councils could come in from all over the US, COOs, CEOs, they could help get that council back on its feet because we have the common platform. So they're beginning to see, wow, there's a lot of benefits for having a technology platform.
And how do you deal with the councils that resist, that say, well, I'm going to do this the way it was when I was a girl?
Oh my goodness.
You must have those, right? Every organization has its antibodies.
Oh my, yes. You know, I'm really pleased with our work. We have, of 112 councils, 109 are on the common operating system, and there's 3 that aren't, and that's only 2% of our membership. But yes, it does take a lot of hearts and minds. It takes a lot of work, quite a bit of training, quite a bit of change management. And also, you know, our customers that we serve, the girls are pushing us in that direction.
Yeah. Stephen, single biggest obstacle to...
So there's a great expression, you know, the hard stuff is the soft stuff and the soft stuff is the hard stuff.
Yes.
So if you think of the hard stuff, you know, we've got a fantastic partner in Salesforce. If you think of the technology, the tools, you know, that is being done, can be done. But how do we make the whole business model agile? Not just agile software development, but an agile business model that can use data and analytics to sense the changing needs, wants, and aspirations of our customers, and then co-create with them to create solutions that are going to really win in the marketplace. So that is a transformation of the whole model. And our business, of course, is like many of the businesses in the panel, highly, highly regulated for good reason. You know, we are a trust entity. You know, we borrow money from the public to fund our business. So we have to ensure that we value speed and make the business process agile without compromising trust by having failures of cyber or fraud or whatever. So I think that getting an agile business process is the biggest challenge, because it gets into the culture of behavior, the codified, you know, procedures of the bank that have been coded in for the last 2 centuries.
Yeah. Do you have any secrets you can share with the group? Because you're not in the only industry that faces that problem. How do you get people to understand that the way business is going to be done 10 years from now is going to be different than from the last 2 centuries?
So here's something that we found very powerful. I mean, so first of all, we use the term a future compatible competitor. That's what we're building. And it starts by asking the question, am I forward compatible? So it's recognizing that for sure the world is changing real fast, and I am a leader. Am I forward compatible? And that encourages every employee to ask the same question. Now, we've defined what forward compatibility means, and it's A, B squared, C squared, D. So it's the attributes in the new economy that are most valuable: adaptability, boldness, curiosity, collaboration, and determination. And we've developed a test for this. So you self-select and you do the forward compatibility test. You get scored. Your boss doesn't see it. It zooms back to your inbox. It gives you your profile. It shows you where you're weak. It gives you nudges and tips to how you can become more curious, more collaborative, more determined. And it also tests your digital literacy. So we're using this because we recognize we all need help. Starts by recognizing you need help, so that's a good thing for leaders to do. And then we've developed this
Strictly within the bank, or do you license it to others?
We could be open to licensing it.
Did you develop it at Citi?
We developed it at Citi. We have a fantastic lady who's PhD in organizational behavior, and I tasked her to study the new economy and the most successful companies in the new economy, and what were the attributes of both the companies and of the individuals that would give you the highest chance of success.
And do your employees believe that the data isn't going to be shared with you?
So it's interesting. So we've had 9,000 employees self-select to do it.
Yeah.
I did it, failed. Nobody laughed. Not a surprise. And
but you've now addressed all those shortcomings.
But I'm working on them. But we've had 9,000 employees, so clearly, our team do believe that you got to manage your own learning, and two, it's not going to get shared with your boss.
Susan's single biggest obstacle to achieving your technology goal.
Yeah. So I'd say being in the technology industry, the biggest challenge is always just staying one step ahead, because technology is moving so fast that if something happens or some trend that happens and you are not prepared for it, at the time that it shows up, you don't have enough time to correct. And so I think like one analogy I feel running a tech company is a lot like going down a really, really fast river. And if you hit a rock, and no one else hits that rock, it's going to be really hard to get back going down that river. And so what that means is that you have to always be looking at all the new technologies that are coming out. And even though those technologies are not generating revenue or don't have that many users yet, you have to invest in them today. Because by the time they have a lot of users and they have a lot of revenue, it's going to be too late. So for our business, I would say some examples might be VR or AR. Those are very early technologies, but yet they have the possibility to completely transform the way we see video, the way we interact and learn, and so we have to invest in those today. And I think that's just a challenge, is always staying ahead of the game. And like realize that you also have global competition, right? So the technology market is a global market. Anyone who develops something better or different could get significant growth, and we would be too late. So,
but this gets to a point that I'll bet everybody in this room faces at some point, which is the technologies that are coming down the track are so transformative to so many parts of the business that it's very difficult to say which do you invest in and which don't you invest in. You can't do it all.
Right. No, you can't.
And so how do you figure out which are the ones that are really going to be critical to the future of your company?
Right. I mean, I think the way I think about it is trying to have a 3 to 5 year vision of what this marketplace is going to look like, and accept the fact that what we have today it's not static. It's going to keep changing. It's going to evolve, whether we like it or not, whether it's evolving in our favor or away from our favor. What does that picture look like? And then if you have a good vision of what the world's going to look like 3 to 5 years from now, then what should you do today to be able to compete in the world that's going to happen 3 to 5 years from now? And so the other thing is that, yes, you can't invest in everything, but you can have small teams, and those small teams actually can gain expertise, and you can start to see, do those are you getting success there? So you can have a number of experiments without actually staffing everything up at a significant level. And then, at least you have a team and you have learnings. It's when you have no organizational understanding or no investment in that area, it becomes very hard. You might not even know at that point, like, what's the right company to buy to catch up for that, because you're so far behind.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I think we're all struggling with speed, and I think, whether you're in technology or not, I'm saying technology companies also are having to deal with new technologies and figuring out how do we adapt our business. I was running Google's ad business when we went through the mobile revolution, and that was a huge change, right? And so, you have thousands of people that all need to get trained, and the products all need to completely change to be able to adjust to a new technology. And I think the only way is to be forward-looking and to jump into it and say, this is what the future looks like, and we're going to build for it today.
It's interesting to hear you say that. At Fortune, we do a survey of Fortune 500 CEOs every year. And one of the questions we ask is, what's the question that I've been asking you, what's the single biggest challenge to your business? And give them lots of options to choose from. Is it competition from China? Is it competition from a startup? Is it getting the best talent, et cetera, et cetera? Top of the list, 3 years in a row, rapid pace of technological change. It's coming fast and furious, and it's hard to make those choices along the way. Single biggest obstacle.
We're fortunate because we lead technology in terms of motorcycling, but the challenges that we face is actually very similar to what I've heard up here already, and that's cultural. And within our organization, we have the desire and the drive and the intent to do it, but because of our distribution model, which is actually through a network of dealers, specifically in the US, we have approximately 130 dealers all across the country. We have a dealer network that's largely come to motorcycling because they were in love with it. They were passionate about motorcycling. In some cases, these are mechanics that happen to be or ex-racers that have found their way into the business in some way, shape, or form. And now they're fighting to become businessmen. And the good news is that we actually have their attention with the way that retail has evolved online, is that people actually, we used to spend 5 or 6 times before someone would go to a motorcycle dealership to buy a bike. Now they're doing all of that online. They're doing those 5 or 6 visits online, and by the time they walk into the dealership, they're ready to buy. They're ready to buy, they know what they want, it's a matter of making sure that this goes with that. So it's a cultural change in helping to help our network understand that this is the new reality for us, the new retail environment.
Will the dealerships go away?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
Because this is another thing, is that we're selling more than just a machine. It's an environment. The dealership should be an extension of the person's lifestyle. It should be a clubhouse, not just a place where they make transactions.
Stephen, the same question about banks. I mean, the amazing thing to me is there seem to be more brick and mortar banks around today than ever before, at least in this country. They seem to be proliferating, not disappearing.
Well, we have a relatively small physical branch network. So, we describe it as we're high digital, low physical. The role of the branch has changed, though. So the transactions are really not done in the branch anymore, but there is financial consultation, financial needs analysis. The bigger decisions in your life, when you're planning and you want to ask those questions, am I on track for this life goal, or to protect my family, or for retirement? You still want to get advice. Now, that advice should be powered by great technology. It should be powered by tremendous research in terms of the asset classes and the composition of your portfolio. And we do that using technology to make it easy for your banker to be able to provide you with advice for your life stage or your challenge. So there will be fewer branches in the future, Alan, clearly. There are fewer branches if you look at the overall population, but the role of the branch, we call it the smart branch. It's entirely digital. It doesn't have a cash vault. It is all about the relationship. So
not that different than the Ducati dealers.
Exactly. It's just I relate exactly what Jason describes.
Yeah.
You should be able to go in a place where it's a trusted environment, it's comfortable, you know the banker, and you can be very open about what you don't know.
Yes, Sylvia.
You mentioned trust. Trust is just absolutely vital. In our organization, you've got to have that trust. And when you're deploying technology, technology also has to be consistent with your brand, because that experience has to really resonate with the people that are looking at your brand. And I think about that because one day I was stuck at JFK. I don't know if any of you have ever gotten caught where you have to spend the night at JFK. And
Probably everyone in the room at
right.
some time or another.
So, from about 2 to 5 a.m., it was the zombie hour. And the zombie hour is, there's no services really. And all, night long, people kept coming to me and saying, would you watch my kid? I'm going to go get something. Can you watch my child? All night long. Finally, when the shop started to open up, got my cup of tea, this man came up to me and he said, would you watch my kids? And I said, okay, I'm happy to do it, but why are you asking me? And he said, because you're a Girl Scout. And I didn't realize that I had some type of Girl Scout, item on me. But that is the trust of our brand. So when we think about our technology, we need to make sure that it is consistent and it resonates with that trust. When people say that's a Girl Scout, they know that's somebody that they can have confidence in.
So let's stick with the trust issue for a minute, because I think all of you, everyone in this room understands that there is a bit of a crisis in trust going on right now. Trust in business, trust in institutions generally, trust in a system that many surveys show a majority of people in this country, in Europe, feel isn't taking care of them. We no longer have that sense that the rising tide is lifting all boats. And one of the things I really like about being at Dreamforce is Mark Benioff's insistence that the business of business is to make the world a better place, and that he sees that as sort of a fundamental part of his mission, is to figure out how do you address that. So I wonder if each of you could talk a little bit about what your organization is doing to address that broader trust crisis that's really undermining some of the pillars of our society. And I'll throw that one as a jump ball, whoever wants to take it first. Go ahead, Mark.
I know that sometimes people even talk about trust and how technology can hurt trust by depersonalizing things. And for us anyways, we're actually finding that customer intimacy is allowing people to get more in control, and control of what they do, whether it's at our facilities, checking in, et cetera. But that control allows them to actually trust the brands even more. So we're fortunate in that regard. As it relates to culture, we had a good customer-centric culture like 3 years ago when I came in, but now we're going through another level of cultural training that actually gets more at the fundamental issue of trust and showing people how we appreciate each other, starting off every meeting with the idea of, oh, I really am happy at what you did this last week. And every meeting starts off with a positive message, and it sets the whole tone in the organization, so the energy level increases by fivefold instead of starting out with, we missed this, we did this wrong, we're off the numbers, but start off with a positive meeting.
You start with your employees.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, I'm talking about the employees and the management team.
Who else wants to?
I think another element of trust is, first off, in delivering on our brand promise. I mean, our customers know specifically what they expect from us, and we have to ensure that we deliver that without fail consistently. And if we do, then we have to, I tell my team, you grasp the nettle. We don't let the problem go to side. We actually deal with it. We confront it immediately. And I'll use an example of something that we've implemented on a global level, which this has been, I love this program. We call it Back to Customer. And what we do through the customer surveys and the data that we end up pulling out from the experiences, whether they're buying a motorcycle or taking something for service, we identify where we have, let's say, a detractor, somebody that comes back with a low net promoter score. Instead of just putting that in the pile and saying, oh, we're never going to make those guys happy, the executive team at Ducati on a global level, I mean, I'm talking about North America, my executive team, but also on a global level, we pick up the phone and we contact those customers one-on-one. And we talk to them and we listen to them and we let them communicate to us what the challenges that they had. Yep. And in most cases, they just want an ear. They want to share their experience and know that somebody's listening and cares. And we have the opportunity to take that person who was once a detractor and turn them into a promoter. Yeah. And that is a very fundamental analog way we were talking about earlier, where the human interaction, technology cannot replace that. that human interaction actually is a really important piece of it, because the technology helps us identify it, but it still takes that touch.
Susan, the issue of trust has been a big one for technology platforms recently. We've seen that platforms can be used to do great good, but also be used to do great harm. How do you think about that as one of those platforms?
Yeah. Actually, I was going to sit before you asked me that specific version. I was going to give a different answer, so let me maybe answer both of them.
Sure.
So one of the things I just wanted to say about trust in general, there's certainly our users' interaction with YouTube, but we are a combination of millions of brands underneath, which are our creators and the channels that they have. And what I've seen is that the current, if you look at millennials and the media that they consume, they talk a lot about this word authenticity, which is the idea that you're being real. And that you're being honest, and that you're talking about what's really happening in your life and what's really meaningful. And if you think about it, this generation is the most media savvy, most media saturated generation that has ever lived on the planet. And they have an expectation that what the information that they get is very real. And I would just contrast that maybe more with a traditional model that really celebrates perfection. Everything, people are beautiful, people have great lives, the scenes and the sets are done and they look beautiful. You'll see creators, will have 10 million subscribers, they're filming in their bedroom and their bedroom is a mess. Stuff is coming out of the drawers, and the point is they're talking about this is what my real life is like. And so I do think there's a meta point that media has moved away from this concept of perfection to making it real, making it authentic. Which I do think is a significant change, and I think there are many benefits of that. And all messaging for that generation, I think needs to change to address that. I think to your second question, that's certainly a very meaty topic. I think there are. I think as a platform, our goal is to deliver the right information to users. And to your first question, we use machine learning, we use many different opportunities to figure out how do we deliver the right information to users. And as the world continues to evolve, that becomes increasingly more complicated. What is the right information? Is it trusted? Is it authentic? Is it true, right? And I think that's the opportunity for us to think about how to continue to improve it to make sure that we're delivering the right information to people that they want. And so, in the news area, for example, one of the things that we've started to do a lot more is really, when there's a big news event, how do we break news with a trusted set of news providers and make that available on YouTube, in the top shelves? How do we also find the voices on our platform? For example, we have a program called Creator for Change. So, when we live in a world that's very complicated, where there's a lot of increasingly more divisive, how do we find some of the voices that are actually promoting really positive messages of tolerance and taking on some of these hard issues, and how do we promote them more? So we have a program, Creators for Change. How do we support that more? So, overall, I think these are issues we're thinking really deeply about, really seriously about, and there's a lot of work ahead for us to continue to improve our systems.
Stephen, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I wanted just to pick up on the topic of trust. Post the global financial crisis, we conducted a root and branch review of the entire business, and it comes down to the very ethos of the business. And we share this fantastic view that Mark and Salesforce have, that the communities where we live and work should be better because we are there. And that means we have to work to do that. Now, there are 3 tests that we apply. So we have 220,000 employees throughout the world in over 100 countries. And the 3 tests that we apply to every single thing that we do, very simple. Number 1, what we do has to be in our client's interest. Number 2, it has to create economic value. And number 3, it has to be systemically responsible, because we are part of an ecosystem. We're part of an economy of which we are a vital part. So when we have this our mission is to enable growth and progress. So we should help you achieve your goals. And the trust factor is about every single thing we do passing those 3 tests. And it becomes very, very real. I mean, I have had many situations that happens, every week where there's a situation where you ask yourself, is it passing the 3 tests? Is it really in the customer's interest? Is there real value being created? And is it systemically responsible? So we know that it's a long, hard journey back to be in a position of true trust, and it will only come through doing what you say you're going to do every day.
One thing I would add is, that's actually similar, that resonates when I hear you speak about that, is I do think that as we live in a more complicated world, we as leaders and we as companies need to have principles that we use to govern and to manage the company, and that those principles need to be easily explainable so that every employee in the company understands that. So we talk about 4 different freedoms at YouTube, the freedom of expression, freedom of information, freedom to belong, and freedom of opportunity. And I could spend time explaining them, but every employee would know what they mean. And so that means that in the end, when you're trying to make a hard decision, people will come back to those principles and say, well, how does that actually impact the freedom of opportunity? Or sometimes you may have a conflict, maybe some of those principles are in conflict with each other, but then you're having a principled discussion about what's a right thing for the user, what's a right thing for the customer. And if you don't have those principles as a company and those values of a company that you've clearly articulated and that every employee knows, it becomes much harder to effectively make quality decisions.
Susan, go ahead, Sylvia.
I have a really great example of that with both technology and Girl Scouts. Recently, we announced 18 cybersecurity badges with our partner Palo Alto Networks, and the response was amazingly overwhelming. I mean, it really surprised us. And when we talked to the girls and we talked to the parents, they're being overwhelmed. Just like you said, they're being overwhelmed by technology. And they know that if the Girl Scouts are there, the Girl Scouts are providing a path forward all the way from our daisies, which are 5 years old, all the way to high school. They know they can trust us. They know that we will give the girls the skills to protect themselves online from cyberbullying. They know that they're going to give them the skills to protect their family home systems, the security systems. I mean, I can't tell you how many times parents now have said, oh, this is so great, because now the girl, she's going to help me manage, control my garage door or this new refrigerator that's talking to me. They really see that they're just so grateful that we're stepping forward into technology and the girls are really right there with us. But because of our brand, because of the trust in our brand, they know that they're going to allow their girls to learn how to manage the very basic things like their financial security, their home security. And our girls are telling us they're really interested in how do we protect America's electrical grid? How do we protect our voting systems? How do we prevent hacking? Those are the kinds of things our girls want to know, and we're going to be there for them.
So last question, and Susan, you provided a great transition to it. I want to ask about leadership, because the world that the 5 of you have been describing, the business world that you have been describing, is a very different world than we lived in 10, 20 years ago. I mean, the old management of the old notion of the way corporate management worked was all the information would sort of go up to the top, and the people at the top would sift it out and decide what everybody was going to do, and that was going to come back down. You're talking about a world where things move much more rapidly. You have to empower people at the edges to act. It requires a different level of trust. It requires a different relationship with your employees, your customers, and society. And so what I'd like to ask each of you to do in the little bit of time we have left is, Susan, you've sort of led the way here, but give us the best leadership advice that you've gotten for dealing with this new environment that could apply to the other people here. And anyone can go ahead, Mark.
I mean, even at this conference, I've learned a lot, and I've heard a lot of things that resonated with me. And one of those is, in order to have trust, you need transparency, and that's the beginning. And in order to be a leader today, the transparency has to be huge. The communication skills have to be repetitive over and over again, making sure that everyone feels connected in the organization. They understand what the strategy, what the mission and vision is, and making sure that you're very transparent and authentic, I guess. And Susan talked about authenticity. Going getting down to where the work gets done, making sure that you're in the bowels of the business, being visible, letting people see who you are, and interfacing and being interested in what work they do. I think all of that around authenticity and transparency is really critical in today's leadership, given what's happening with technology.
That's a great point, Mark, because if you're not transparent, transparency will be forced upon you. Things get out very quickly and travel fast. Yes, Sylvia, then Stephen.
You know, at Girl Scouts, our mission is delivered through an army of 800,000 volunteers. So those volunteers have to trust you. So the big leadership, yes, communication, but respect. Respect for the people that are giving their time, treasure, and talent to invest in the rising generation. And you know, if we're leading today, when there's so much changing, if they know that you respect them, they'll hear you and be much more open to the directions that you're going.
Good. Stephen.
So I think that, you know, the key thing is that you have to drive out fear as a leader, because fear is a filter we can't afford. You think of the old sort of constructs of management, of, you know, the org structure, or I'm not senior enough to talk to that person, or I don't know enough about this subject, or I don't know enough about this technology. And we believe that if you're living in a world where, you know, adaptability, curiosity, collaboration are so important, you've got to create an environment where there's no fear. Because the fear, you just don't know what idea you're suppressing. You just don't know what solution and participation that you're squeezing out. And when you recognize that you want to have a fully inclusive, diverse, maximum creative contribution, that's very, very hard to achieve. And the thing that kills it is fear.
Yeah, that's a good point. Susan.
Yeah. So one of the techniques that I've adopted since I've become CEO of YouTube is one I actually borrowed from Google, which is the idea of having a weekly meeting where anyone in the company can ask you anything, and you have the opportunity to go over what also happened that week. And so the advantages of standing up in front of your employee base and having to ask, having them the opportunity to ask you questions and you to answer that every single week means that you are breaking down some of those barriers I think that you're mentioning here, the opportunity to have, like, you know, sometimes it'll be like, I'm an intern, I just started this week, but I have a question, right? So it's breaking down this barrier of like, oh, here's a specific hierarchy, and only, you know, certain people can talk to certain people. But the advantage that I see as a leader is like, I need to know about everything that's happening in the company if people are concerned. Like, my biggest concern is there's something happening in the company that's a problem and I don't know about it. And so when you provide a forum for people to easily do that, you find out. And it also means that as a leader, you need to be able to provide, not only know about it, but you also have to have an answer. And so I found that mechanism, that provision of transparency has really helped in the current environment.
Great. Jason, last word. The pressure is on.
Actually, you know, it's interesting. I actually just had, you said, you know, the best advice I got it 2 nights ago. So it was something
The value of coming to Dreamforce.
To me, it was one of the things that really stuck with me, because I'm really fighting for innovation within our organization. And as a national sales company, this is very challenging because we don't build the motorcycles here. We sell, service, and market them. But what it was is, how do you drive the innovation and leadership in your team? And what I heard was that, you know, instead of the idea of being a leader where you're leading the team for 75% of the time and doing some coaching and so on and so forth, it was, the balance has shifted. If you want to stimulate innovation within your organization, the leadership is something like 30, 35%, 10% coaching, and the rest of it is following. It's following and listening to your team and empowering them and giving them the chance to make mistakes and to learn from them, because I sure as hell don't have all the answers. I look forward to having a team that can help me get better at what I do, but they're the ones that are going to help drive the change in our organization. And I think if I'm capable of doing that, then I could be a good leader.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you all. That was a great panel. Thanks for taking your lunchtime.